All right, boys, I'm back at the helm. Kicked you out.
That was a little risque for you to give up the intro mic for a week.
It was. And like I'm not type A, so it was very.
I did see you sweating a little bit when you were doing
sweat
the
a lot
intro
during that. Yeah,
we got to get Maddie on the intro now.
No. Hey, let's slow down. Let's slow down. Baby
I'm the
steps.
editor, man. I might make my own intro and just you guys might be real surprised when
I'm Matt Welch and the only host.
You're gonna just listen to an hour of me talk about things that interest me.
Just ASMR him doing.
Let me tell you about these guys.
Listen, I have a gripe with you boys. I really do. We got some feedback on our March Madness bracket.
How are we doing?
Well, not too much love. Just people looked at our Final Four and were like, what are you guys thinking? And it involves you, Matthew.
Ooh.
Hey, man.
Kentucky? What
Kentucky
were you thinking?
Was a safe bet.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Kentucky, the
Didn't Uncle Ben say that?
It was
to Spider-Man?
Yeah, right.
It was a vibe pick, all right? Everybody knows how that
It
works.
was a vibe pick.
You know? You're really rolling the dice on a vibe pick.
Yeah, you
the
picked
vibes, man.
Picked a 7 seed to really beat the wrestling program of Iowa State. That was just a faux pas.
Well, I think I told you guys I picked the opposite for our office one, and I'm in first place. So,
good.
You know what I'm saying?
Glad
I'm glad I got that one out of the way first with you guys.
Thanks for sabotaging us. Well, look, let's move into Dad Wins, Dad Fails. What do we have this week?
Yeah, we had an interesting thing happen with our kids are on spring break, so we have a new baby. We weren't planning any travel, and but I'm like, man, it would be nice just to get out of the house even for like a night or two. So I planned this trip not too far away to take a couple of the girls hiking. And sure enough, man, the night before, my daughter kind of looks at me. She's like, Dad, I'm not feeling too good. Okay, no fever, nothing like that. So we'll just see how you're feeling in the morning, and go from there. Next morning, she gets up. She's like real skittish around her breakfast, doesn't really eat much. Meanwhile, my 3-year-old, who's just like having a day, man, having the best morning of her life.
Yeah.
She's eating some scrambled eggs. She's just like chowing food. She looks up at me in the kitchen and just barfs all over herself. And so now we know like something's up in the house. And my other daughter, she just was like, couldn't eat all day, fatigued. So we had to cancel at the last minute, which is always unfortunate.
Sure.
There's a lot of expectations. We're able to reschedule it like later in the year, but that was a little rough.
Yeah, there's something going around because we've had.
Well, you had the barf bug story.
We had the barf bug story last week. Yeah, but like I don't know if it's a win or a fail. This entire week, like Mike. So I was mentioning this to Andrew before. We, as a rule, do not like let our kids sleep in our bed. They have been very good sleepers in their rooms. The only exception is when they're sick. Like I will typically like sleep with one of the kids and just like make them feel good and just with vomit and whatever else. Like you're there just on hand to help out. I don't know what it is about kids and manipulation, but my 2-year-old every night before bed will be like, Dad, I have to throw up. I'm like, no, you don't. All you want, and then she's like, okay, can you sleep in my bed? I'm like,
just start cycling through.
They
the
just
reasons.
know how to play the system. So it's been like an interesting week where suddenly it's gone from needing my wife to needing me, which was great on the first day. Kids, you need to get back to like mom. Like,
can I just say this too though? This was actually really cool. So since we couldn't go to that trip, we ended up hiking around here, Cleveland, and there's actually a national park that goes right through Cleveland that kind of forget about us there. It was awesome. So shout out to the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. We did the Brandywine Falls Trail. Nice. It's a short trail. It was easy for like my 5-year-old did it fine. But it was really cool actually. So I'm like, we got to get back out here because it's always the ones in your backyard.
Not really. I've done it a little bit. It's kind of funny though. We were hiking. I don't know. Like it's fun. We don't hike here, but when we go, like when we travel, especially to Arizona, my kids like hiking in Arizona, and we were on like some hiking trail, and we started talking to some other hikers, and they were like, oh, like when they told us where we lived, they're like, oh, like Cuyahoga Valley National Park, like that area. We're like, I guess. And then you look at it, it's like one of like the largest continuous park systems. Like I don't know how long it is, but it's like it ranks up there and like it's got a really high number of square miles, whatever, when you rank it. So that's good. I just never used it.
Yeah, it's worth checking out.
Nice. All right, boys. Well, look, this week's episode is all about listener questions. We have done maybe not the best job of keeping on track of comments and questions and things that have come in. So I spent one weekend trawling through a bunch of comments that we've received, love or maybe not so much love, via DMs and comments on social media platforms. And I figured, you know what? I'm going to go through a bunch of these. We can give some feedback.
See what the people got to say.
See what the people have to say.
Yeah.
And
are we allowed insulting questions, or we just have to be nice with all this?
absolutely.
questions?
I've only pulled first names of people, and some people had some pretty questionable social media handles, so I had to like decipher what their actual what their actual names were. But let's jump into a bunch of these, and so jump in as you guys see fit. So Marcus from Atlanta, how do you handle public meltdowns without wanting to disappear?
Ooh, I've got.
Oh no!
I've got so many meltdown stories. So many meltdown.
What do you do when the red mist comes over the kid? What's your go-to strategy?
So I would say, again, I think my perspective is a little bit different because I've like lived through it so many times.
Yeah.
I would say, and I see it happen. I would say that for the most part, if you're a parent and you are actively trying to maybe correct or actively trying to guide the situation for your child, I don't think anybody else really cares. Because if you don't have a kid, you should not have an opinion on the matter.
Fair.
If you have a kid, you've most likely been in that situation.
Right.
And it's very easy to be like me, when I see that happening, if the parent is just trying to give everything they want to the kid to shut the kid up, I go, well, the parent's training the kid to act like this, right?
Right.
If the parent is completely ignoring the kid, it's like, well, you're not taking an active approach in making sure that they understand they're not the only person in the world, and that you don't get to act like that out in public, right? So I think the biggest thing I would say, and the biggest realization I've had is like, your response to your kid is more important to those around you than the kid themselves. And so often we like to look at it and be like, oh, it's that, my kid's screaming or they're throwing a tantrum or whatever it is. And then when you see the parent meltdown, you're like, oh my gosh, get a hold of yourself. It's a kid who wants a chocolate bar. Like, of course a kid wants a chocolate bar.
Right. Yeah.
If all of us as adults didn't have like restraint, think about how we would act out.
Yeah,
public,
for sure.
Right? I want this, I want that. So it's like, you got to understand these are small little brains. And it's just, I think it's more about the response of the parent than the actual kid. Cause I've seen some horrendous,
kids or parents?
No, parents.
Parents,
almost had to step in because it's like, it's one thing to correct a child. It's another thing to like verbally berate a child.
Yeah.
Or it's another thing to like, I'm a firm believer on disciplining your child in a way that allows them to understand correction. But then there's certain things that go too far, and you're just like this is not an acceptable. And now, granted, there's only so much you can do, but I think it's more about the parents' response than the kid themselves because they're kids.
Do you give a pep talk to your kids before going into like a store? I always give a pep talk.
Yeah, there's times where we usually do, and we usually have really specific stuff. It's not like we're just kind of tooling around. So I think when I say we got to get the list or no, they always ask for it. To your point, they're kids; they're going to ask for it anyway. But they don't. I think they've learned by now. No, and then it's like if you slip a little one in every once in a while, that keeps it fun and it kind of keeps them.
Do you have a go-to for like public meltdowns and like your reaction to it?
I just kind of pull the kid close and I start trying to talk to him.
That's the best thing to do.
I just go, listen, hey, this is what's going on. Here's where we're at. I can't do anything about that. I'm sorry you feel that way. We're going to be in a new environment in probably 10 or 15 minutes. And
then I'll be able to.
and
then we'll deal with this.
And then we'll deal with this. So
I would say it depends on the age.
The age is really important.
Under 4 years old, it's more of like, hey, just hold them. Love on them a little bit.
Right.
Tell them, hey, you can't act like this. Over that, it's like.
Have you ever done the Christmas list? So no matter what time of the year it is, you're going through and your kid's like, oh, I want that stuffed animal, or I want this.
I'll do birthday or Christmas. Yeah, put it down your birthday list.
Put it in your list, and if it's right, then we'll make sure.
That's a good hack.
We'll get it.
But I was more thinking the checkout line like that. Every kid is always like, and you know what? Screw those places for doing that to parents. Always loading up with all the chocolate and the candy at the aisle.
Oh, right.
For me, personally, I don't like that because I'm always buying Snickers bars.
Yeah,
But then secondarily, for my kids
looking for a Snickers bar.
All right.
That's great.
Good question, Mark. I think that's a good one. That's
a good
Good question.
So I'll stay on the theme of discipline and parenting strategy then for a while. So Tyler from Nashville, are timeouts still a thing in your guys' houses, or are we all just negotiating with our kids now?
No, timeouts are very much a thing.
How do you do timeouts? Is it the stairs?
It's a combination.
Rooms?
So we have different areas because we have so many kids. We have different
You're
areas.
over there. You're over there.
You're in Guantanamo Bay.
You're in Zone B. Zone C.
So,
And
you mean the West Wing, the East Wing?
it'll be different things. So like, I think it's a graduation. If there's like, or there's a graduating set of circumstances. If the kid is just being like rambunctious and maybe being a little bit more, this probably isn't the right word to use, but annoying, we won't necessarily set him in a timeout in a typical sense. We'll be like, okay, you're going to go read a book and you're going to sit on the couch and you're not going to get off the couch. You're going to just read your book to sort of like calm everything down. If it gets to a point where they're being like disobedient, and it's maybe not disobedient to like the kid, to us as parents, but maybe like being mean or hurting another child, they'll typically they'll have to do some sort of like apology and whatever else. And then they'll go sit in a timeout. That's, a general timeout. But when they do like the worst thing imaginable, right? And they're like disrespectful to a parent, they get stuck in a timeout in whatever room typically the parent's sitting. So like if my wife's cooking and a kid hasn't been listening, they have like, there's one little area in our kitchen where the kid just has to sit. Nothing, no one's allowed talking to them. They are completely like, you're sitting there until we're ready to talk to you because you've been disrespectful.
So do your timeouts have a time?
We don't set a timer because we want them to feel like it's been 8 years or 8 minutes.
Right.
Because once you set a timer, you've sort of like, they can look up and know how much longer they have to wait it out. But for a little kid, 8 minutes, it could be 7 hours. It's like a dog. They have no recollection of time.
Right.
So we never put a time on it. But after like the age of like 5, it kind of goes away. Like they start realizing like, okay, I'll just lay here and I'll just, daydream until I can get through it. But when they're younger, it's like you can really make them feel.
I'm going to pivot off this question a bit. Have you found, and maybe more so you, and definitely you as well with the ages of your kids, have you found that when you're disciplining like a younger kid, that one of the older siblings can't help but intervene? I'm finding that now where like when I am disciplining my second oldest, my eldest can't help but chirp in.
Do you mean like repeat things that you're telling the kid to do? Yeah. Oh yeah,
dude.
Yeah,
it's constant.
That's a problem.
They get 6 pair. Like my youngest, they have like 7 parents. Everybody's telling the youngest what they messed up on.
Yeah. And she's just repeating what I'm saying.
Yep.
Yeah, we deal with that, and it's hard because I'm trying to figure out the right response, because it's like, you tell them like, hey, you're a sister, we're the parents, like that, let that job be ours. But again, they hear it, and there's always a power thing going on in the house, right? Like every kid, this is a human nature thing. We all want to feel powerful, and if there's someone that's like younger than us, we want to feel like, hey, we can stick it to you.
There's a couple of times where I've like lost it, like funny, like cracked out, where like I'll be like, my oldest, like she doesn't need to like drink a drink without like a cap on top.
Okay.
But like my second oldest, like absolutely she does. She's my Tasmanian devil. Like if she'll drink chocolate milk, it'll be chocolate milk all over her with like a small bit that's made its way into her mouth. And so the other day, like she was like, it was like teetering on like this massive cup of water that she was trying to drink. So I took it away. I was like, hey, you cannot have water right now. And so I'm like going on. She's like having a meltdown. My eldest is like chirping every now and then. She's like, Dad, in Cleveland, we say water. That's why she doesn't understand. And I just like lost. I couldn't stop.
That's
like,
hilarious.
I was like, that's one way
she critiqued your style, huh?
She's like, that's not how we say it.
That is so
in
funny.
Cleveland.
I think levity is always great with kids.
Oh, yeah.
It really is. All right, let's stay on discipline and go through a couple more. Kevin from Indianapolis. How do you discipline without feeling like the bad guy all the time?
We have kind of specific things around discipline. So like, I think the worst thing you can do is be really angry and then discipline in that moment, like as an adult.
I've never done that.
Right.
I have no idea what you're thinking.
It's very hard to not do that, I will say,
sure,
because you're always, the reason you're disciplining typically is because your patience is gone now, you've lost it, and you're at that level. But and so this is by no means done perfectly, but it's like if you can take a beat and then explain the discipline, help the kid understand like what actually they did wrong, and then do your best, and then like have a talk with them afterward too, like when they've calmed down, and just be like, hey, I love you, like this is my job we're your parents, I'm your dad, it's my job to train you. I have this speech I tell my kids, I go, you're a really important part of this family, but you don't run this family. You know, like I have that
I've got the
speech.
same version, not that exact
Like,
thing.
you're not
but
in
there's a
charge.
version of it.
Your speech to your kids isn't buy it nice or buy it twice.
That'll come
could've
later.
sworn that's what you was
That'll
gonna
come
say.
later once they get a checking account. So that's typically part of it. And then, you know, we might say a prayer with them or talk to them specifically about it. Just so you try to end it where you're not fuming mad.
I pray for the exorcism of this child to banish.
You better pray for your life, child.
You better start praying right now.
Yeah. It's probably smart for you to do that.
Yeah. And there still might be a consequence after that. You know what I mean? But but for the actual discipline part, like
Who's the
that's
bad
it.
guy in both your guys' households?
I would say we do a pretty good job of splitting it, depending on like. Very rarely is it a wait for your father to get home.
Okay.
Like my wife's
That's old
not
school,
that.
right? Like
yeah,
that
like
feels very old
growing
school.
up, that's how it was. It was like
Same.
wait till your dad gets home, and it was like, ugh. She's not really into that. She's
Yeah.
more of like, I'll rather solve it than like this big build up. Because as a dad, when you come in, the last thing you want to do is
I
like,
know.
I
Yeah.
see my kids for 2, maybe 3 hours a day. The last
Yeah.
thing I want to do is spend an hour of it recanting and rehashing every moment that happened when I wasn't there. And then
Absolutely.
I got to do corporal punishments. Like,
Yeah.
I do not want to do
yeah,
this.
yeah,
So we're more of like when it happens, solve it. As they get older, things change, right? Somebody's, on social media doing something they shouldn't be doing. They did something at school. They did something at a party. Like stuff like that changes because they
Yeah.
become more real.
Yeah.
But like when they're little kids and it's more pointed, I think you hit on it, Matt. Like the only way you can stay motivated as a parent is knowing that if you don't do this, your kid will be terrible in life. Like
Yeah.
no kid is a good functioning adult if they don't have discipline.
if they never get told no or
Never get told no or
Right.
anything like that. It's so hard for them to have no discipline and be functioning inside. And I'm not talking about like being a bad kid. I'm more saying like there are like if you don't teach a kid that the stove is hot, all they're going to
Right.
do is continue to burn themselves in every area of their life.
Yeah.
And as a parent, you owe it to your child to try to help them in that way to navigate those things where they don't have to keep getting burned. And I think that comes with there's different types of kids. Some are like my oldest. He's a little bit more like conservative and he doesn't take as many like crazy risks. He's more of a look before you leap type of kid.
Yeah.
Where if other kids are just like grip and rip, they don't even care about the consequences.
Yeah.
And so you discipline them completely
Differently,
And
yeah.
I don't look at discipline as just, whatever, spankings, timeout, whatever you might qualify discipline as. It's also about like the correction of like, hey, this is what you did
Yeah.
and why it impacted you negatively.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think you have to like when you have a child, you're signing up for
That's part of the
discipline
part of the
basically
job.
until you die.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Let's move on to onto a different theme. So marriage and partnership. There's a bunch of questions that came in on this topic. So Noah from Minneapolis, what do you and your partner? So what do you do when both of you are completely exhausted? It's open ended, but I think Matt, you and I are kind of going through this period right now. What do you guys do when you're both completely exhausted? Like when you literally have spent the entire day looking after the kids, and then it's like infant time, where
Right.
you can't reason with a newborn, and both you and your wife are sitting on the couch, and on the baby monitor you hear like that cry, and you both just want to turn to each other and be like, can you just be the one to do that?
Right.
Like how do you guys
Well, I
navigate
mean, we're
that?
in the thick of it right now with obviously the 6-week-olds. We're not even to the point of the baby monitor yet on the couch.
just sleeping on you.
It is literally like, hey, it's that time of night. We get the kids down. I try to do like the handful of things that I know my
Yeah.
wife needs, like fill up her water bottles
Yeah.
and like clean up the house downstairs. And like we're at that stage right now because I know that she is, however tired I am, she is more tired.
Yeah.
And so if I can help in like little ways like that when I'm available, that's it. And then honestly, just going to bed, or like not like trying to be like, let's stay up. And it just because I know right now, again, that's the most important thing is like,
How have you found it with like your big kids and a newborn? Because what I found is whenever we're feeding like the twins, something comes over my older kids with the newborns that they just have to be in that room where like my wife is. They
Yeah.
don't care
Yeah.
what's
Yeah,
going
number one.
on. They could be locked into Shrek or whatever they're watching. And the minute they realize like mom is out the room and in another room, like feeding the kids, suddenly everything is urgent.
like the mama
I have
duck,
to tell
man.
mom something. I have to tell her. And the
Yeah.
amount of times we've had like arguments with like the bigger kids being like, guys, what are you doing? And they've just have to burst in. The other day, I think my wife was up there for about 45 minutes, just kind of going through the whole like evening routine because we're trying to get them into some kind of sleep pattern. And I had been given one instruction: stay off your phone, don't respond to any emails, and make sure the big
Play
kids
goalie at the bottom of the stairs.
Yeah, right.
Seriously,
Dude, it's the
So
worst
you know
job
what-
as a dad.
but you know what I
Yeah.
did? I was like, I can kill two birds with one stone. I will respond to my emails, but I'll sit on the stairs and do it because like then nobody can get by me. Okay.
Going right to the choke point. You're just locking it down.
Sure.
So-
I'm sure replying while kids are trying to sneak around you. You're like,
Yeah. Now they know. Now they want to get up there even more.
So
'cause they
seriously,
know.
I'm actually sat there at laptop on my lap, like at the bottom of the stairs doing whatever. And the kids were like locked in. Like every now and then they come over and be like, Dad, can I get a snack? Dad, can I get this? Whatever. Right. A couple of times I was like, I don't know. Is this like a ploy? Like if I go and get a snack for them, is one of them just going to run up?
I leave the guarded post.
So I at a certain point, like, you know, I was like, I need to pee. So I was like, I have two choices. I could
Hold it.
Listen, no.
45 minutes, you can hold that.
We already know you pee your pants on a regular basis, so just let that sucker
Not on a regular
rip.
basis. It's ad hoc. Special occasion. So I literally was like, I have to pee. And when you have to pee in that situation, you have two choices. You can either announce to the room, to the kids, I'm about to go to the bathroom. Do not go upstairs. Like in your best dad tone, like do not go upstairs. Or you could just slink off, hope they don't notice, and be back like in time. I decided to go with the former. I'm going to announce to the room, and I'm like, kids, I need to go to the bathroom. Your mom is feeding your sisters. Do you need a snack? Do you have everything you need here? They're like, yeah, Dad, like I've got Oreos, I've got whatever. They had everything they needed. I went to pee. I maybe took 30 seconds. Both kids were upstairs.
I was going to say, how long did it take for them to get
I was
up
already
there?
getting texts on my phone, like my wife being like, "You had one job, like you had to keep them downstairs." So anyway, I don't know.
That's not a fun job, man.
It's
I
not.
think that's the challenging part of, like, you try to defend your wife, like you try to defend her space, and it feels like you're
Defend
running
her
around,
space,
and then
yeah.
she's like, "Why are you getting so angry about this?" It's like, because I'm trying to make
trying
it
to help
easy and
you.
peaceful for you. It's like everybody has it. So we're like, but the question was like, what do you do at like
When you're both
when you're both
completely
completely
exhausted.
exhausted? There's two things that I've done. First off, like, and this might be, I don't know, you might call it chauvinistic, but I'm always like, all right, I can take just a little bit more. Like I know I can physically take just a bit more, because typically when we're talking about the age group, we're talking about like the mom's still feeding, she's doing whatever else.
Yeah.
So like no matter what, kind of to your point, Matt, no matter what I think I'm feeling, she's probably got a little bit less in the tank just based on, you know,
Totally.
physics, right? You know, whatever, psychophysiology. So it's like, I always try to push myself to do it. And then secondly is, and I think I've told you guys this before, is like, I will always try to like overcome stuff with music. So like, if it's like, if it's whatever, 6:00 and it's like, we are exhausted. We know we got bedtime in 2 hours, but how do we get to 2 hours? I will literally just crank music throughout the house, just obscenely loud, and just like
Start a dance party.
even though I have nothing left in the tank. Because it's like,
Nice.
listen, just fake your body out psychologically, let your body know, hey, this isn't time
Zombie
to,
dance moves.
yeah,
at that
whatever it
point.
might
Yeah.
be, whatever it might be. But
That's fun.
Yeah.
We've done a
Psych yourself
couple.
out.
We'll have to see if you guys want to jump in on this, but we've done a couple lip sync things. So
Okay.
we'll like pick a song and we'll lip sync just like the first verse, whatever.
Yeah.
And then send it off and see if we get one back. So now that I know that, I might have to
Include
send
us.
one over to you guys.
We do a lot of lip
Yeah.
sync, whatever that's called,
Lip sync.
syncing.
Yeah,
stuff.
Obviously, you're not doing it right. Lips.
Like a sync, but wish I could speak.
You got a big family. You could have the Eagles up there, dude.
Yeah,
you
we
know,
do.
6 guitar players. Like,
That's fun. All right, Jake from Austin. How do you handle disagreements about parenting styles? I don't know that we have different parenting styles. I feel like my wife leads with like the style and I kind of fit myself around it. Where I think like we have like maybe disagreements sometimes in parenting styles is where you maybe reach like the point of no return with a kid and you find yourself having like gone into like, you have dad tone obviously, and then whatever the level above dad tone is.
Yeah.
And you can see like that your wife isn't necessarily thrilled that you've gone to that level above. But as parents, like we'll never like argue in front of the kids. I think the biggest thing is like you don't want to like discipline like your spouse in front of your kids. Like my wife's not gonna be like, hey, don't talk to them like that, whatever. But she'll always pull me aside and be like, hey, like I know you're frustrated, but if you need to take a beat, like just tell me and leave the room. That type of thing. But I don't know if you guys have ever had like disagreements from a style standpoint.
I think we've had a lot of disagreements over the years, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think, you know, somebody told us once, like, if you're intentional and you're concerned and you're focusing on like how to improve, that means you're going in the right direction. And so, if we think about it in the sense of like, if we never had a disagreement ever, about how like, Irene pulls you aside and says, hey dude, don't like, if no one ever did that, you're kind of left unchecked. And like, if we're left unchecked our own devices, if we see a positive outcome based on our standards, then we're going to go, oh, we'll just do that all the time. Yeah. It's, the other stuff you don't see is like, a bunch of daughters getting raised by, a dad who then automatically goes to anger. What are they going to look for in a spouse and all the other stuff we now know, what's going to happen to kids. So, I mean, there's disagreement, but I think as you become like, as you raise a kid and as you get them through certain levels, you start to understand where each other,
there is actually one phrase that like brings me down every single time. Like I could be seething like internally or even externally, but like the one phrase that always like kind of brings me like down to parity, similar to what you said, is my wife will always be like, how would you feel if your daughter's husbands acted like that? And I'm like,
well, if they were treating him like that,
well, if they were this handsome.
I thought you were going to say the sun's getting real low, whatever she tells the Hulk.
I would say too, as soon as you realize most likely your wife is right, that usually helps too in a lot of ways. Just because
not a Matt phrase when your wife is right. Just whatever.
Just go with it. I've learned that one.
All right, some work-life balance questions as we're bumping up on time. So, Steve from Denver. This is a, I don't know, I think this is a prevalent question for now. How do you stay present with your kids when your brain is still at work? So you've just got home, you've got a million thoughts going through your head. You are mentally responding to emails in your head, or you're mentally reliving conversations and trying to think through what like next steps would be and action items would be. How do you stay present like with your kids? Has that evolved over time?
It's a hard one.
I think it's extremely hard.
Yeah.
I've heard, there's a lot of things that people say is like, write a task list before you go home, like write it down and then you'll know, like, I've kind of got it out of my mind. So I was like, I got to respond to this email, whatever it is, or even something as simple as like, rehash idea, conversation. Once you write it down, something happens. I don't know how it happens, but you kind of can feel like you can let it go. And then I would also say, like, what are you doing on the way home? Like if you're talking on the phone till the moment you walk in your front door, it's really hard to do that. And I've noticed on days that I have, like today, I've been in meetings all day today. I know I'm going to be getting in a car. I'm going to be driving to my son's basketball practice. I'm going to have a meeting on the way there with somebody else. And then I'm going to have to know, like, okay, I have to like get engaged in the 30 minutes I have between his basketball ending and getting home. Because if you don't have any sort of downtime or any sort of like method to like turn it off, I think walking in becomes extremely challenging.
What is your downtime in the car?
I'll typically listen to some sort of audiobook outside of music. Like I'm a big music guy. I just mentioned music before. I'll always try to like listen to music, but I'm also a big audiobook guy. Something like completely off the topic of what I know and think about today. So like right now I'm listening to Edward Land's, like how he brought Polaroid into existence. It has nothing to do with anything I'm doing. No. But it's a super interesting topic to me. And so I walk into the house and I'm not angry or thinking about anything. I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, and I'll literally tell my kids, do you guys know how Polaroid happened? Or do you guys know this, that, or this? And then it becomes like a whatever conversation versus to your point, like, it's very challenging, especially when it's stressful. Like, when you've got lawsuits, when you've got, business partners that are having trouble, when you got a customer that's leaving you or a customer that's joining you or a technology's not where you got all these problems and they want to consume you. And I'm not perfect at this by any means. Like I struggle with this every single day. I think you owe it to your kids to try to be like, okay, I have to be able to turn it off no matter how much I want to. I have to be able to turn it off for at least a period of time. And you got to create your mechanism that you
do you guys give your wives like a heads up sometimes? Be like, hey, because my wife will sometimes give me a heads up and be like, hey, I don't know whose kids these are, but they're your kids, like the minute you come home, because like, it's been a day. Yeah. Do you ever do the opposite? Like, do you ever like say, hey, like I've had a day, like I need like 15 minutes when I get home to respond to this, and this, and then I'm just going to lock in. Like, do you ever have that?
I think when we first got married, I probably did. Yeah. We've been married now for almost 20 years to where I think she kind of knows like, okay, this is, she hears
Enter Sandman's not playing.
She hears by the way I close the door. Like, okay, this is gonna be one of those. Come on, kids, get to bed. No, but I think, I know for sure I used to, and I never would like warn her. I would come in and just be like gruff and throw stuff around or whatever. And I probably still do a little bit of that.
Yeah, no,
really
definitely. You've been really good.
a really stressful day.
I will say, before we had our 5th kid, there was a time where, like, my wife was actually making that space for me, which was pretty amazing. Like, I'd come in, and she'd be like, "Hey, why don't you go upstairs and just like
let me put your slippers
change
on.
and
Here's the pipe.
take like
Mr. Rogers.
5-10 minutes." It was awesome, man. Yeah, shout out to my wife.
Well,
That's great.
I'm married up. Let me just tell you.
When you're buying it nice and not twice.
I mean, you don't have to worry about stuff. Yeah, but no, seriously,
That's not the direction I thought this question
was.
Matt, you see how happy he got there for a minute?
Dude, I'm like,
he started daydreaming over there.
I hit the
He's
jackpot.
gonna watch this back and go like, "Oh my gosh, I stopped talking for 5 minutes and just got lost in my own thoughts."
Yeah. Don't worry about us.
Marry nice or marry twice. Nice again.
Marry nice or marry twice.
That's what he's been thinking about the last 5 minutes. There's so many questions here. I think we could do I think we'll split this up over multiple episodes and kind of like scatter them in as we release these, because these are awesome questions. We've had so many that have come in. A couple of other shout outs to kind of make is, guys, we've had a lot of wives slide into our DMs.
Not in that way.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Easy.
Let me finish the sentence. We've had a lot of respectful wives slide into our DMs asking about where they can get merchandise for their husbands. So the hats.
Okay.
So maybe in the next episode, what we'll do is we'll figure out a way to start like a hat giveaway. So maybe start thinking, guys, about like a smart way for us to start getting some merch out there into the broader community, because I wear my Chief Dad Officer hat most days.
Yeah, it's a good hat.
At the weekends. All right. What about dad interests? Any fun dad interests for this week? Actually, can you leave the room, because you're going to judge me for this?
Yeah.
Guys, guilty pleasure. And it actually jogged my memory when we were doing a March Madness bracket, because we were like, oh, we're really like, whatever.
He can't even look at me when he's about to. He's looking down at his paper.
I think it's your phone. If you need
if you need to go, I know you said you have meetings.
Yeah.
If you need to go,
one sec. Hey, Anna, can you just call him? So when we did our March Madness brackets, we had made a comment about like the Mormons. We were like, oh, we picked all the Mormon schools. Guys, my guilty pleasure in our house right now.
no.
Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
Gosh.
It is car crash television at its absolute finest. Because when you're in the season that we're in right now, I can't use any brain capacity to watch something. So if I'm
you're
at
totally
home,
checkout mode.
if 100%, you're in checkout mode.
Yeah.
So in the odd bits of free time that my wife and I get, where there's this like magical 45 minutes where like all the kids are down, but we know the twins are going to be up at any point in the next hour or so, and you sit down and you want to watch something mindless, Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. What an absolute...
Chief Debt Officers does not co-sign.
Right.
Does not co-sign this.
I said this is my guilty...
This is a Naveed Kiani.
Yeah, can you say my expression beliefs do not represent Chief Debt Officers?
Matt's going to be putting a disclaimer in there.
Yeah, I will. I think I will.
Anyway.
Mine was always Deadliest Catch, or one of those like Discovery ones where it's just like mind-numbing. Like,
oh, how manly.
you know what that was when like Shark Week came out and all that sort of stuff. So like I get the mind.
I'm into
What do you have
I'm
on?
into the watching these like ultra marathon races, because like everyone that tries to do these like
What, are we
100
trying to one-up me in manliness here? You've got
Yeah.
Deadly Scadge and Ultra Marathon.
yeah. I mean, what are you watching?
No Real Housewife fans over here.
No, but I love watching these guys. They all make documentaries because they're all like, I'm going to try to do the Moab
Yeah.
240 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think it's fascinating watching these people like just go to the limit,
Yeah.
So
For one that's maybe not so manly, House Hunters or House Hunters International, when you just watch it, like it's the most mind-numbing TV.
Yeah.
You don't care. They always are like, the husband's like, I want a small place, $1 million. The wife's like, I want a 10,000 square foot house for $7 million is our budget. And you're like, how is this going to happen? And they move into like, oh, we're just going to rent. Never mind. You're like, oh, well, that was an hour. I wish
pretty
I'd
much
get back.
just summed up every season of that.
I'd like to revoke mine. If you could put like a great edit over this. So my guilty pleasure, actually, funnily enough, is World's Deadliest Prisons.
Yeah, there you go.
Prisons.
The end. All right, Matt, why don't you take us home?
Yeah, well, guys, we appreciate you listening. If you got this far, I think one of the cool things about Chief Dad Officers is these questions that come in. These are common questions I think a lot of dads wrestle with and face, and you're not alone. So there's a place to come hang with us, ask questions, send us what your responses to these. We'd love to hear that as well. If you guys got some good dad hacks, and we can read them on the next show. But find us on social media at Chief Dad Officers. And until next time, thanks for listening.
Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.